You know, I think trans people are very confusing, right? For example,
Confusing?
yes. For example, when I look at you, I cannot decide if you're a man or woman, right?
Awesome. Yes.
I mean,
I'm non-binary, so like perfect.
non-binary.
That's very affirming. Thank you.
No, I'm not saying this to insult you.
No, no, that was perfect. That is exactly yes.
Yeah, I
Love it.
mean, like, it feels
Do
like
you see how
you're
happy I am that you said that?
right. This is what I mean with confusing.
I mean, this is something that has existed in indigenous cultures throughout the world for like centuries. It's not that
Which
complicated
which indigenous
because
culture?
men and women, those are just social terms, right? Because we're not talking about male and female. Those are the biological terms,
Yeah, I know that.
right? Yeah. So we're just talking about men and women. That's like the more neuropsychosocial terms, right? So these are just concepts, right? Of what like masculinity and femininity is and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? And I'm somewhere in between those
Yeah, look,
extremes
you have females,
socially.
right? Yeah. You have females that behave very masculine, right?
Sure.
But they are still female
They're
biologically.
yes, they're still female biologically, right? And that individual may still identify as a woman, right? May still like fit into the category of woman because their gender identity aligns with their personal schema on what it means to be female, right? And that's what any woman is. So whether they are cisgender or transgender, each individual person determines what it is to them to be female, right? And for some, it may be that they are a more masculine leaning female, right? For others, they may be a more feminine leaning. For others, they may be a more androgynous leaning, right? But like each one of them, they are the ones that determine, like, do I fit into the category of woman or no? Like that's up to each individual, right? And there are many many cultures who have not just two categories, right? Not just two social categories for gender, but sometimes three, four, you know,
More in
like
the
in
Western
Samoa, they
context
have
only.
Fa'afafine, Fafatama. In Aboriginal Australia, they have the sister girls and brother boys. In India, they have the Hijra. In Mexico, they have the Muhe. And in all of Turtle Island, which is what we call North America, many indigenous nations there for centuries have had two spirit individuals with various, namings and different attributes.
I want to ask you a question, right?
Hmm.
If you look at my profile picture and if you hear my voice and if I tell you, I have a male genitals, right?
Why
What?
would you tell me
How?
that?
No, I'm coming there. I'm coming there. Well, how would you identify me?
I mean, I would assume you to be a man unless you told me otherwise.
So you would assume I'm a man, right?
Hmm. Because I 99% of the time that would be accurate.
Right. So the people in your category, right?
Hmm.
There may be like 0.10% of the world population. Am I right?
No, it's like less than 1%.
Less than 1%. Okay. So why? What is the reason you try to, enforce this onto us on
I'm
99?
not telling you how to identify.
No, I mean like when I watch, for example, Disney, Netflix,
Hmm.
Amazon, it's like being pushed in all
Why?
those
Why do?
shows.
Why do? Why does? Why do cisgender people push that onto me?
What did you say,
Why
sis?
do? Why do people who are not trans push being not trans onto me? Like
Like I
I've,
said,
almost every show is full of cisgender people,
what is cisgender?
not trans. Like literally way more than 99% of the characters, storylines, etc. feature cisgender people rather than trans people. So we're
Uh,
actually underrepresented in media.
Okay.
Because
Just
we're like around 1%, right? But as far as media goes, we're like a fraction of 1%,
right, right.
like a
But what
tiny
gen?
fraction of 1%.
Okay, what
But
gender
if
am
you
I?
see like one trans person on a show, you're like, oh my God, they're pushing it on us. But like literally, like my entire life
That
has just
was
been
just
just wall to wall cisgender people.
that was just one example, though. But what gender am I?
You said you were a man, right?
Yeah. But what is a cisgender?
Cisgender just means you're not trans, that your gender and your phenotypic sex align with each other.
Yeah. Well, why do you have to name something like that to
Well, it's the
other
same
gender?
reason why the word straight exists. It means not gay, right?
Yeah, also heterosexual, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and that was one example. The second example is, you try to push it in education, right?
How so?
In schools, starting
Push
from
what?
very,
Push what?
the trans
How
LGBTQ.
do they do that?
We can see it, right?
How?
Videos.
You
Yeah,
see
on
what? Doing
children,
what? Doing what?
like
Are they teaching
they,
them how to be trans? Like, what are you talking about?
they dress male children as female
Who is?
children, and
When? Where? My
as
kid has
men.
never. That's never happened to my kid. He lives in a very liberal state. I
Yeah,
asked
but
him. I asked him the other day. He's in sixth grade. I said, "How many times in your entire elementary school career has the word trans come up?" He said exactly 0 times.
okay, but it happened to my child. My
They put your
boy,
kid in a dress. Cool
my
story.
boy, no, not in a dress. My boy had to dress in pink.
Oh my gosh! Not a color.
But we all know pink is associated with
Pink is a
female.
male color. Pink was derived from red, which is the color of Mars.
Uh,
Blue is the color of
according to,
Venus, and the moon, right? Like lunar. It's blue is considered the color of females. That's why
according to,
that's why the Virgin Mary is always in blue.
yeah, I don't care about religions.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that like she is depicted in blue because it's a feminine color, right? And it was traditionally all the way up until like a few decades, like maybe like 50 years ago, something like that, when one of the first ladies in America decorated one of the rooms of the White House in pink, and that became a girl's color. It's completely arbitrary. Colors are not don't have a gender.
But I have a
Could I
friend.
convince you to
Yes.
go to a therapist and convince that therapist that you have an incongruence between your sex and gender and that you need to go on cross sex hormones and then take those cross sex hormones for the rest of your life and then possibly seek a transitional surgery of some sort? Could I convince you to do such?
No.
Exactly.
But let me tell you something, right? This is I have a friend, right? It was like a
Another
five.
anecdote.
No, no,
Cool.
no. He said, uh, like I wanted to be born again, but to be born again as a woman, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this is, and I don't know what happened to him, and I don't think this has something to do with trans being trans. It's like I don't know what happened, but it
Maybe
is.
they realized they were trans. Then what?
I don't think so, but after three
That's like
months,
how you figure it out. You just like you start like realizing that this like discomfort that you've had your whole life is like a like
isn't
it
it
comes from
maybe?
somewhere, and then you go and you talk it out,
Yeah, but
and
don't you
then like if
think?
you need to do things to like express who you are so that you're seen and referred to as the person that you are, and you're more comfortable in doing so, whose fucking business is it? Like, why does it matter to anyone else?
And if you try to indoctrinate children from
Who's
such a young
indoctrinating
age,
kids? You're making shit up again. Like you talking about an adult and then you're
yeah,
back to kids again somehow. Like what are you schools are
that's
not
the correlation.
schools do not convince kids to be trans. They don't even freaking talk about it. There are some schools that say these people exist right? These people exist, and hey, let's not bully them because they're different. That's literally the extent. And then they might tell the stories of like Stonewall, or like the fact that like trans people were unalive during World War II alongside many other
Yeah.
groups, right? That maybe that shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, that's horrible, of course, you
Yeah,
know.
and then now we have a regime in our country that seems to be heading in that direction again, and I guess we didn't learn because the people didn't get taught that in school. Maybe they should have, right? Maybe they wouldn't try to do it again.
No, it's not that they did not learn anything from it, you
Yeah,
know.
it's that they didn't,
It
or
is like,
they took it as a blueprint rather
no,
than
it's because people forget very quickly. After the, you know, what happened in the Second World War? After 50 years, people forget about it, you know? It's just how humans are.
that's why we have to teach it again. And we didn't teach it. It's never been taught, except for like 8 states in the country now. And in those 8 states, by the way, the kids who are, because again, every queer adult, every trans adult was once a kid, right? Who was confused and scared because they weren't allowed to be spoken about. They weren't allowed to see, someone like them in their literature, in the media, right? And everything was hidden. And so people like me who grew up in the 80s, right? The only time I ever saw a trans person was on a movie or something where it was a joke or it was a tragedy because
Right,
they were,
right,
right? I didn't get to see just like the barista in the sitcom who happens to be trans and just existing and being happy and joking with their friends, right? So I didn't get to see my own future. I did not get to see myself. There were no mirrors when I grew up. That's all we want for the kids now, is for the ones, not to convince any of them to be, but for the ones who are, have no control over that, to be able to see themselves in the world so that they can imagine themselves in it.
right. That was a beautiful speech, I have to say, you know. But um, even say what you just told me, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna convince the masses? Because
By
we all know,
continuing to say this
yeah,
as many times as I have to.
but you know, we see that
Did you rather I give up?
no, no, I mean like the far right is rising, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere,
And they
not
will
only in the
fall
United
again.
States.
Yes, and they will fall again.
But they will fall but with consequences, you know.
We'll see. But
Are you ready
they
for that?
only fall
Yeah, but are you
when we
ready
stand.
for that?
I told you I'm a veteran, right?
You're a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
I got my head on a
interesting.
swivel, and my bag is packed.
So you know how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Expert marks person.
Oh, wow. Respect, man. Actually, admire you now.
Why? Because
Um,
I know how to handle a weapon.
no, because of your experiences in combat, you know.
No, I wasn't in combat, but
Yeah, you have combat experience, let's say it like that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know.
I was a
And
mechanic. But I had to know how to use I had to know how to use all the tools. You know what I'm saying?
right, that's important too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What was your name again?
Laney,
Lenny. It was nice to meet you, Lenny.
good talking to you.
I had no intention to insult you or hurt your
No,
feelings, whatever. I
I'm
don't.
all
I can
good.
hurt your feelings, you know.
No, I'm
You look
good.
like a
My
strong.
feelings are Teflon.
You're mentally strong. I can see that, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the conversation.
Yep.
I hope the best in your life. Huh?
All right. Thanks. You have a good evening.
You too. Goodbye.